Stanislav Petrov passed away on May 19, 2017 at the age of 77, quietly and away from the public eye. But on September 9th, his death became known when German political activist Carl Schumacher invited Petrov to congratulate him on his birthday. Instead of his friend's voice on the other side of the wire was Dimitrije, Stanislav's son, who told Schumacher the bad news. Even if you have or haven't heard of Stanislav Petrov, feel free to say a big thank you to him, and why you will find out in this video. Stanislav Petrov was the man who saved the world, because it was thanks to him that the Cold War did not grow into Armageddon. And it was close. On September 26, 1983, Stanislav Petrov was on duty as the head of the radar station, monitoring the system from a bunker not far from Moscow. The center, which officers and locals called a mushroom, surrounded by barbed wire and hundreds of armed soldiers, was connected to 4 spy satellites that tracked the continental United States and the surrounding oceans. The center was equipped with a supercomputer and huge electronic maps of the USSR and the USA, which showed the place where the projectile was fired from and its target, designed to prevent the launching of missiles from 9 American bases. He also calculates their routes and sends data to Soviet leaders, to the supreme military commanders. The night shifts were not exactly a dream job for Petrov and almost 100 people who were under his command. But then on September 26, 1983, in the first minutes after midnight, the center sounded the alarm. The computer reported that a ballistic missile with a nuclear bomb flew towards Moscow from the direction of the United States. And not long after, a warning was heard about 4 more. The blow was supposed to follow in just a few minutes. When I first saw that alert message, I jumped out of my chair. All my employees were confused. They looked at me. I started shouting and giving orders to suppress panic. I knew that my decision, whatever it was, would have severe consequences, said Petrov. The siren sounded for the second time. Petrov knew that time was running out. From that moment on, Kremlin had only half an hour to decide whether to press the red button for a nuclear response. Petrov had only 15 minutes to find out whether it was a real nuclear attack on the USSR or a false threat, and tell his decision in a statement to his superiors. My comfortable armchair at that moment seemed like a hot pan. My knees were shaking. I started sweating. I felt like I couldn't get up. I was so nervous I just froze, Petrov said at the time. Although, according to the protocol, a series of nuclear missiles from Soviet bases had to be fired immediately, which would hit targets in the area of the United States and Western Europe. But Petrov hesitated. He didn't press the red button. Everything was ready, but I didn't want to fire rockets. It was clear that this meant the end of the world as we know it. I decided to wait. The minutes passed and the computers showed that American missiles were getting closer to the USSR. Alarm shook the entire center, but I didn't launch the rockets, nor did I inform my superiors. They would order me to shoot anyway. In such situations, you cannot rationally analyze. There is not much time. You have to rely on instinct. And the instinct told me that something was wrong, said Petrov. At that moment, he said he had 2 things in mind. The computer showed that 5 projectiles fired from only one base were flying towards us, and they were all heading towards Moscow. The general attack of the Americans would certainly not be limited to only 5 missiles, but they would certainly want to enrich our weapon systems. And secondly, I thought that the computer has no brain and could misinterpret signals for nuclear missiles, said Petrov, who then decided to wait for the blow, even at the cost of not being able to fight back. Computers have shown that missiles are getting closer and closer to a nuclear strike. There was only 1 minute left. 30 seconds. 10. 5. The people in the center were getting ready for the worst. And then, nothing. Not a single explosion over Moscow, not a trace of an impact. The computer continued to say that the rockets hit the capital, but outside in the center of Moscow, there were no sign of such a scenario. It was clear. The alarm was false. Petrov reported the incident, and the investigation showed that the Russian satellite misread the signals due to the rare phenomenon of the alignment of the sun's rays on the clouds and the trajectory of the satellite. Petrov retired from the army in 1984 and worked at a research plant that remodeled an early warning system. Remodeling was completed in 1985 when the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev began perestroika. Time for reforms and peace negotiations with the Ronald Reagan's White House. Petrov's fateful decision remained unknown to the public until 1991, when the first official publication of a memoir by Colonel General Yuri Votinstev, the former commander of Soviet anti-aircraft missile defense units. 2006, Petrov received a special award from the World Citizens Association of the United Nations Anti-War Group in New York. And if his decision on September 26, 1983 had been different, who knows what today's world would look like.